My name is Lingxiang Wu. I am a Chinese queer visual artist currently based in Toronto, Canada. I'm here for the Art&Technology program at the ACC International Artist Residency in 2022. So the project that I'm working on in ACC is titled The Labyrinth of Digital Bodies. It's a project that comes extended from both of my ongoing research, digital landfill and performative digital bodies. So my research investigates the contemporary image culture on social media to kind of understand this generation's paradoxical urge to actively perform for the internet while feeling completely exhausted and utterly alone. So through looking at different types of images and reworking with them, I hope to create a contemplative experience for the viewers. So the project itself includes a VR space that utilizes the videos of bodies as to construct kind of a chaotic maze, as well as on the outside of the installations, there is video projections that turning the videos of bodies that I collected from social media, especially TikTok, into this kaleidoscope mesmerizing visuals, kind of as representations of the social media as a never-ending machineries. So with my art practice, a lot of the time, the fundamental drive for me to look into certain issues are always an attempt to understand what's going on with my surroundings and kind of understand the struggles that me or other people are feeling. Since we are using social media so much more than before, and image becomes a major consumptions, image material and online content becomes a major consumption of our life. So I really wanted to understand what kind of impact does that consumption has to our daily experience. But the major trigger for me to start doing the projects is kind of the pandemic. As the pandemic hits, I was, similar to a lot of other people, was quarantining at home for more than 2 years, where I started to use internet a lot more frequently, spent a lot more time in it, and sort of also have the time to reflect on that experience and how intense it has become. Especially as a Chinese living in Western cities, since COVID, it hasn't been the easiest time. We, as Asians, we were facing a lot of hatreds at that time, either through comments or through content that you see online. I was constantly in the position of being asked to express opinions or like taking a side on a lot of the issues. But the social issues are always the complicated issues, and it's difficult for me to form a perspective yet. So that's why I realized that our time has become so black and white. It's either right or wrong. There is no room for the gray area, no room for me to take a pause and just reflect and think about all the complexities the problem has. The pause and hesitation seems like a true crime within the society, and I begin to feel that maybe there is something that I can comment on or I can work with my art practice. The way that I'm working with the project, there are also some very common methodology that I was employing. The first methodology that I use is called psychogeography, which is coined by the philosopher Guy Debord and the Situationist International, I think around 1953. At that time, they were using a kind of like a coping mechanism or a response towards the sudden booming of industrialism and the rising of urban spaces. So kind of trying to use the practice of walking to understand what that urbanization has impact on people's everyday life and what needs to be changed or needs to be talked about. So because my research is also investigating a space, rather abstract space, but still a certain kind of space, so I thought that the two will match pretty nicely. And that's when I started to employ the similar methods within my project. So for both the Library of Digital Bodies and the FFF has to use a lot of materials collecting from social media. So starting from earlier this year, I began to scroll a lot on TikTok, just mindlessly, and then video recording them, giving myself the rule to either change the way I scroll by every 3 posts that I scroll through, or in certain other ways, just to create a sense of detour, which is one of the main methods within psychogeography, so that you can take a path that you don't always take out of your routine and habits to get a more diverse experience. And then with that, screens, I have to organize and collect them to now, I think, includes roughly 400 clips of different clips of bodies that I will, again, using technology and tools like After Effects, Premiere, Photoshop, to kind of modify and then reconstructing them. So as a visual artist, the first thing, of course, is the visual, the aesthetic, overall aesthetic and the visual experience I'm creating. How would that experience kind of influence the audience in a certain way? Because of my own interest in surrealism and the uncanny, I often try to employ as much of that perspective as much as possible within my work. So I really like to turn a lot of the everyday life objects or things that we saw a lot within digital space or physical space into something that's rather ambiguous and maybe abstract. So that sense of play with viewers' eyes to kind of tease and seduce them is what I was intended, what I would like to do within a lot of my art project. So my project right now that's in the exhibition is titled The Labyrinth of Digital Bodies. So it has 3 different components. Now the first one is the video projection that's on the hanging structure. It's one particular video that's being projected to 3 sites. And the video is using the digital bodies that I collect from TikTok to create this kaleidoscope-like abstract configurations, kind of turning the body into this never-ending machineries, emphasizing on how we perform for the internet. Then the second component is the VR that's in the middle of the installation, where the viewers will walk around to enter from the back and then assess the stationery that has a plinth and a VR headset on it. Within that VR space, the viewer can see compared to the projection, the VR is a much darker space where the viewer can explore around and re-encounter with these bodies, but in a different manner, much more aggressive, much more disturbing. The last element is titled the exit to exist. So it's kind of a component that I suddenly decided to add into the project last minute. It's a flyer. It's a series of flyers that I printed, designed using text inspired by Daft Punk's Technologic. Use a series of verbs that I use to describe how we use computers and devices now using to describe how we perform for the internet. And all the flyers are folded into paper cubes, and that will be scattered around on the floor, on the structure, where the viewer can take after they finish viewing the whole installations, so that they're on top of the flyer, there will be links where the viewer can use to enter back to these digital spaces again in their own devices at home.